push record on this little thing. We'll go ahead and get started, and hopefully you guys can get out a little bit early and start your day. I'm really glad that you're here. Welcome to the girls' class 2014. Yeah, thanks for that. We really have been praying for you ever since your church signed up. So I do hope that this week is fun for y'all and that you have some really good memories made, and that you maybe get to know Jesus a little bit just a little bit more, maybe his love for you a little bit deeper. So we've been praying for you. We're very glad that you're here. Let me pray one more time, and then we'll get started. Hey guys, come on in. I'll pray and then we'll start. Father, thank you so much for the fact that you wrote down your thoughts and your feelings about us and your plans. And all we have to do is open the Word to find out what you think and how you feel. I thank you for that. And I ask that you would open our eyes to know you more and more. We literally cannot know you or feel your love deeper unless you come in and open our hearts and our minds. So God, I know that you're at work in our lives. I just ask that you would show us yourself in your word today. It's in your name I pray. Amen. So, who am I? Some of y'all know me, some of you don't know me. My name is Julia, and really all you need to know about me is the fact that I love having conversations with high school and college-aged females. I think y'all are very interesting and fascinating. I think you have great perspective and experience and thoughts. Passionate people, so I just enjoy conversations with y'all, and that's why I'm here today teaching on this. Just so you know, chaperones, where I'm coming from, as far as training, I'm seminary trained. I was the director of women's student ministries in 3 different churches. I've been involved with RYM in some way since 2001. And my husband's on staff. So just so you know kind of my framework, and truly, students and chaperones, if I say anything up here that doesn't make sense or that you think is not necessarily lining up with Scripture or just needs to be clarified a little bit more, I will not be offended. I love questions and I love conversations. So please, if something doesn't sound right or it doesn't make sense, I welcome constructive criticism, questions, whatever. Students, if you think if it doesn't make sense, whatever, just come and say, hey, could you clarify that? I'm very open. So, girls class. Usually I don't like the girls class because, well, whatever. I hope this doesn't disappoint you. But I think in my blurb it was clear, this is not necessarily a talk about relationships and modesty and body image for a couple of reasons. I do think that Scripture addresses those things. I don't know you. I don't know your history. I don't know your experiences. I don't know your personality and your personal sin struggles. I don't know you. So I feel like some of those conversations are meant to be done by someone who does know you. But also, I do think that Scripture addresses some really deep heart issues. And when we understand the heart issues, our questions about what to wear and how to dress and who I am are answered in some ways. So I really want to address some of the lives of women in Scripture. They may be girls that you have known about your whole life. They may be new to you. Maybe you'll learn something new about them this week. But that is what I'm going to be talking about this week in terms of freedom. I think that all of us in some way long for freedom. It could look like this. If I could just get out of my parents' house and get to college, finally I'll be on my own and I won't have this curfew or these stupid rules, and I can make my own choices and my life will begin and it'll be full and happy. If I could just get out of my small little town, which is kind of a joke and everybody knows me and everyone's boring, and I could just get to Chicago or Miami or New York City and have a blast, my life will I will be free and I will be able to live. That's one way to think about it. Or you could be thinking, I want to suck every moment out of life. I don't want to waste a moment. I want to really deeply enjoy my life. Beauty and the Beast, this movie, I haven't seen it in years, the Disney cartoon. I haven't seen it in years, but I remember this line from the song from when I was a kid, because it was so, when she said it, I was like, oh my gosh, that's what I want. And Belle, in the opening song, she says, she's in a field, maybe, I don't even remember, but she says, I want adventure in the great wide somewhere. I want it more than I can tell. And for once, it might be grand to have someone understand. I want so much more than they've got planned. And I remember as a kid being like, yeah, yes, that's what I want. Like little Julia, pigtails, yeah, that's what I want. And when I became a Christian in 2001, my thoughts about Christianity up to that point were, it's a bunch of rules, it's a bunch of boring people. That is like life sucking to me in my mind, Christianity. And then I read John 10:10, and I'll just read it to you. You can turn there if you want. But John 10:10, the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they might have life and have it abundantly. And the translation that I was reading at the time said, I have come that they might have life and have it to the fullest. And I remember thinking, how in the world can Jesus say that? Like, how in the world is Christianity that? I've come that they might have life and have it to the fullest. So I've spent a long time trying to figure out how Jesus really does bring us fullness of life, because I think we're hungry for that, and I think we're made for that, and I don't think that's silly. I think it's real. So we're going to be talking about freedom and a couple of different things this week, but I think the first thing we need to ask ourselves is, class, what is freedom? What is freedom? When you hear it, what is freedom? Define it for me. Go ahead. Yeah, being able to do what you want. What else? Independence. What else? Ability to make your own choices. Yeah. What else? Yeah, being free, no rules, no restrictions. Like, you're free to do whatever you want. That, right? Does that sound like, does everyone agree that's a pretty good definition of what you think of when you hear the word freedom? Right? Like, being able to do what you want, choose what you want when you want, no one really telling you what to do, you're free, right? And I think it's important for us to hear. I'm finding out that freedom is more deep and more interesting than I ever realized. Say you and I walked out to the beach right now, and we go out there are two dolphins. One dolphin is swimming, doing dolphin, jumping and swim with his little fishy friends and playing in the sunshine. And one dolphin is on the beach, kind of like washed up and can't get back into the water. It's kind of sad, sorry. Which of those dolphins is more free? The dolphin on the beach or the dolphin in the water? Which dolphin is water? Yeah, why? Because he's swimming. Yeah. He was made for the water, right? Dolphins aren't made for the beach. They're made for the water. You're most free when you live in line with what you were made for, right? Dolphin was made for the water. Friend, what are you made for? And those are the questions we're going to be asking this week. What are you made for? Luke 8. Go ahead and turn to Luke 8. And if you've heard my class before, a lot of this material is the same. I apologize. It won't be the same every day, but if you've heard this before, you're a good friend to be here again and again and again. Luke 8, verse 40. Okay, so my first thing where I think what we were made for, you were made to be deeply known. Luke 8, verse 40. Now when Jesus returned, this is kind of setting the context. When Jesus returned, the crowd welcomed him, for they were all waiting for him. And there came a man named Jairus, who was a ruler of the synagogue, and falling at Jesus' feet, he implored him to come to his house, for he had an only daughter, about 12 years of age, and she was dying. So Jesus is on his way to save this little girl's life. As Jesus went, the people pressed around him, and there was a woman who had had a discharge of blood for 12 years. And though she had spent all of her living on physicians, she could not be healed by anyone. She came up behind him and touched the fringe of his garment, and immediately her discharge of blood ceased. And Jesus said, "Who was it that touched me?" When all denied it, Peter said, "Master, the crowds surround you and are pressing in on you." But Jesus said, "Someone touched me, for I perceive that power has gone out from me." And when the woman saw that she was not hidden, she came trembling and falling down before him, declared in the presence of all people why she had touched him and how she had been immediately healed. And he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace." So, discharge of blood for 12 years. What does that sound like? Huh? Not fun. What does it sound like? It's like you've been on your period for 12 years. Like that to me, and it's true. Like that's all of the biblical scholars agree. That is pretty much what was happening. It was a female issue, which this girl just didn't feel good. First of all, so we don't know her name. We don't know that much about her, but we know she didn't feel good for 12 years. But also, we need to figure out what it meant for her to be on her period. Are y'all allowed to go to school on your period? Right? Are you allowed to go to the movies, out to dinner with some friends, play sports, go to parties? Like you're allowed to do that, right? It's not a big deal. No one cares. No one even knows that you're on your period, besides the fact that you are eating chocolate all the time and super, in a bad mood. No one knows and no one cares. But for this girl, it changed her life because she lived at a time in Israel, well, still in Israel, but a time in Israel where they followed Levitical law, which is the law that was written down for God's people in Leviticus, and it served and serves very many important functions. And that's a conversation for another time. But the deal with periods for her was a girl's period made her unclean. What does that mean? God was setting up the fact that he is a holy God and nothing unclean could be in his presence. So there are tons, hundreds of ways that you could become unclean. And these people were obsessed with staying clean so that they could stay in relationship with each other and relationship with God. If you were unclean, you were put outside the camp, right? Because you couldn't be in God's presence or with God's people. So being clean and unclean, it was a huge deal. So when a girl was on her period, she would leave the camp, be outside the camp, or be unclean for the time of her period. And then she'd have to be clean, made confirmed clean again or whatever. But the deal is, if you were unclean, no one could lay down in the bed that you were in, or if you sat on something and then someone else sat on something, they were made unclean. If you touched someone, you made them unclean. So these people, being clean was a huge deal in their lives. Being unclean meant separation from God, separation from his people, isolation, being alone. This chick, for 12 years, was alone, ashamed, isolated. 12 years, that's kindergarten to senior year. Some of you might know what that feels like, to have that experience for 12 years. That's a long time. So I heard for this girl, her experience was isolation and being alone and separated. She couldn't have a husband that laid down in bed with her. She couldn't have a friend come over for dinner. She couldn't have a hug at the end of a bad day. She couldn't go out in public and brush up against someone at the market. She was alone. And she had two choices. She could tell people the truth about herself and just keep on being alone, or she could hide. And you hear how desperate she is in her story. Let me see, verse 43. There's a woman who had a discharge of blood for 12 years, and though she had spent all her living on physicians, she could not be healed by anyone. When Mark tells her story, he says, she had suffered much under many physicians and had spent all that she had and was no better, but rather grew worse. So she's desperately trying to fix this one thing about her that is so embarrassing and shameful. She spent all of her money and didn't get better, but it made it worse. So she has this deep sense of, there's something about me that's not right. There's something about me that needs fixing, and literally no one can fix it. I've tried everything to make my heart feel full and feel normal, and nothing has fixed it. You and I, Kurt Cooper says it so well, you and I are a puzzle born with a missing piece. And every single one of us at some point feels like, I need something to make my heart feel full, to make my life happy, full of promise. I need something. I'm missing something. Just me by myself isn't enough. We're born that way. All of us. So listen to how desperate this girl is. The crowd's pressed in around Jesus, right? He's walking to save this girl's life, and everyone's trying to get close to Jesus because they know that he's like this really, he's doing crazy things. Jesus is like doing crazy things. Everyone wants to be around him. She came up behind him and touched the fringe of his garment, and immediately her discharge of blood ceased. And I don't know if you've ever been to a sold-out show or a concert where you're trying to get to the front row, and you're going to do whatever it takes because you're going to get to the front row. So what do? You kind of slide past people, oh, excuse me, and you push your way through. Maybe you're a little aggressive, but maybe you're really hey, excuse me, trying to be sweet about it, or I don't know, you're doing whatever it takes. But what are you doing as you're passing everybody? You're touching them, right? What is the one thing this girl was not supposed to do? Right. She wasn't supposed to touch anybody. So she's making a path of unclean all the way to Jesus. And then what does she do? She touches Jesus. The one thing she knows she's not supposed to do. But no one's ever going to know. She just has to get to Jesus. If I could just get to Jesus, my deep, dark secret will be fixed. This weirdness about me where I just don't feel right, it's going to be fixed. I got to get to Jesus. She's desperate. And like I said, without Jesus in the picture, she had two choices. She could tell everyone the truth and be the freak, or she could hide. And you and I are the same way, right? There's something hard about being open about who we are. And so most of the time, we just cover it up and act like everything's fine. And we use different things to cover it up. But we've been hiders for a long time. Let's go back to the Garden of Eden. What happened in the Garden of Eden? Adam and Eve had this perfect relationship with God, perfect love story, perfect. And God said, to be in a relationship with me, this is how it is. You got to trust me. And I'm going to give you this rule. Don't eat the fruit. Trust me about the fruit. And they eat the fruit. So they take a bite, and some of you know this story, some of you might not know, but they take a bite, and what happened? Crunch. What happened? What? Yeah, the fall of man. What does that mean? What? Everything became corrupted, right. So, crunch, they eat the fruit, and all of a sudden, their eyes were opened, and they realized, what? They were naked, and then what did they do? They hid. Where did they hide? In the bushes, like in the forest, right. And what did they try and cover up with? Leaves, right. Which is so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. Awkward, pretend I'm naked. And I'm grabbing leaves, and I'm this is better, right? And you guys are no, you're still naked. Stop it with the leaves. But I'm trying really hard to cover it up. It's ridiculous. It doesn't work. We are unclean. There are things that you have done. There are thoughts that you have thought. There are words that you have said. You've been selfish. You are not clean. You are unclean. You are dirty. And it affects your relationship with God, and it affects your relationship with others, and it affects your relationship with yourself. We've been unclean since Adam and Eve, and we'll do anything it takes to cover it up. And that includes in relationships. We're hiders, right? It's very hard to be super open. Why would God love me? I've done bad things. Why would those people like me if they really knew me? Or those people like me, but if they knew what I thought about this or what I've done or that I feel this way, they wouldn't be able to handle it. They'd be that's weird. I don't know what to do with that. So we just hide it. We just cover it up. And we live with this sense of our hearts aren't full. We need something. We need something, so we're going to reach for something. Now, I do want to say, there is a sense where, like, covering up is a good thing. If I just met you for the first time and I was like, hey, I'm Julia, these are my deepest, darkest secrets, like, you'd be like, stop. Like, I don't even want to be around that person. There's a sense of you're born with a bunch of, Buck Rogers says you're born with 37 coats. And building relationships is this. You show a little piece like, hey, I like this. Oh, you like this too? Oh, great, let's be friends. Or, hey, I think this. Oh, you think that's weird? Okay, well, I'll just cover that back up. Like, we do this little thing where we get to know each other slowly, and that's good, that's healthy, right? It's a way that you will find, build relationships with your future husband. It's the way you build relationships with your youth director, with your girlfriends. Like, there's this slow undressing. And I do want to say, that's why sex has to be in marriage, is because you have to do the hard work of slowly undressing your heart and your mind and make promises to each other before you completely undress. Getting naked is the easy part for some people. Getting naked is so much easier than doing the hard work of opening up your heart and your mind slowly. So that's why sex has to be in marriage. And the only reason I bring this up is because I think people need a better argument for waiting. If you just are like, just wait. I mean, that's what God says, just wait. Like, that's not enough for me. I need a real reason. Like, I need something heavier than that. So sex is supposed to be the outward expression of what you've already done with your heart and your mind and the promises that are made. It's not meant to be just a thing. It's heavier than that, and it's more beautiful than that. So anyway, that's the only thing I'm going to talk about that. But you have something that you're using to make your heart feel full and make yourself feel normal. You have something, I have something. There's something you're counting on. Well, Julia, what is it? There's a couple ways to figure out what are you counting on to make your heart feel full and to feel normal. And this is how you'll know what it is. One, what is the one thing that you're like, if I could just have this, my life would be good. If I could just have that guy, if I could just have that role in the play, if I could just win this game, if I could just be good at this one thing, if I could just have those friends, if I could just get into that college, if I could just have different parents, my life would, if I could have a different body, whatever, my life would be so much better. What is the one thing for you? Maybe it's 5 things, but what are the things for you that you're counting on, your heart is counting on? Your heart is counting on something. If I could just have this different sense of humor or be this kind of girl or whatever, what is it that you're counting on to make your heart feel full? Another way to think about it, what is the one thing that you are so scared is going to go away? Oh my gosh, if he broke up with me, I wouldn't make it. Like, God, I really wouldn't make it. Or, man, if I broke my leg and couldn't run anymore or couldn't play volleyball or couldn't dance, like, God, I don't know what I'd do. Or your parents say, no, you can't go to that party, and you're mad. But you're not just mad, you're like weird mad. Like, you're livid. And you're like, why am I reacting so strongly like it's just a party? But it matters. What is it that when it gets taken away, it matters? And I want you all really, for real guys, I want you to think about what that one thing is for you. It's important. I have multiple things. But there's something that your heart is reaching for to give you fullness of life. So what was this girl's one thing? If I could, what? This chick in this story. If I could just, what? Yeah, if I could just get better, if I could just be clean, if I could just be well, if my body could just stop bleeding, my life would be better, right? So that's the one thing in her head. And the thing is, sometimes God decides to give you that thing, and sometimes he doesn't. But I want you to see what he does for this girl. Because he knows, okay, sure, I'll make her clean. But in a year from now, it's going to be something else. Maybe it's, oh, if I could just have this guy. Or, oh, if I could just have this career. Or, oh, if I could just do this one thing. It's going to be something else. And I want you to see how he loves her. Jesus doesn't just let her touch and run. So she came up behind him, verse 44. She came up behind him and touched the fringe of his garment, and immediately her discharge of blood ceased. And Jesus said, "Who was it that touched me?" When all denied it, Peter said, Master, the crowds surround you and are pressing in on you. So, who touched me? Like, she touches? Who touched me? And you know she's right there because she just touched him. And then it says, when all denied it, Peter replies, who touched me? I don't know. It wasn't me. Did you touch? Who touched him? Can you just see her? She's like, oh my gosh, like the one thing she wasn't supposed to do, and she affected all of these people. And then he's like, who did it? I don't know. And then he doesn't let it go. Someone touched me, for I perceive that power has gone out from me. He knows that the healing is not enough. He wants her to have him. And he's not going to stop until she does. So he asks her to do a very scary thing. Someone touched me. I'm not going to let it go. Just go ahead and get it out there. When the woman saw that she was not hidden, she came trembling and falling down before him in the presence of all the people. Falling down before him, declared in the presence of all the people why she had touched him and how she had been immediately healed. So essentially, her most embarrassing truth about herself. Jesus asks her to stand up in front of all these people and say, this is me, Jesus. This is the real me. This is what I've done. Oh, and by the way, I just made all of those people dirty because I'm dirty. This is me. I don't know if I could do what she did. That is so scary. And then he looks at her, I just think in her scariest moment that he's actually pushing her into, in her scariest moment, she tells the truth about herself, and he looks at her, eye to eye. He says, take heart, daughter. Your faith has made you well. Go in peace. And the only way that he can say that to her is because he became unclean so that she could be clean. And he says, all of that, I'll take care of it. All that you are, all that you're not, the mess that you are, the real you, I'll take care of it. I make you clean. He loves her so well, and I'm super jealous of it because she gets to look him in the eye. Like in her most scary moment, she gets the eyes of Jesus with all of the love that is there. And I just can't even imagine how full her heart was that day. But the truth is, we're going to get our turn. Someday, you will see Jesus eye to eye. And your heart will finally be home. And it will be full. You know those times when you're in the car with your friends and the windows are down and the music is playing and it's just been a great day and you're like, I feel so alive. Like my heart is so full. Or you're a dancer and you're in the middle of this dance and your heart, you just feel so alive. Or there's a song that just, I don't know what it is for you. It could be you're on a long run. I don't know. It could be a million things. You're in a museum and the art is just, I don't know. Or you're just having a great laugh. Like you're laughing so hard and life is so good. Anyway, you know what it feels like to have your heart full? That's going to be your heart forever. That moment is a glimpse of what you're going to feel like forever. Your heart will be that full forever. And that is what we're waiting for, right? That day when your heart is finally home is the day that you're living for. That's the only day that matters. Your heart wants to be full. It knows that this world is not enough, that we're meant for more. So what do you do until heaven? It's just so far away and sometimes not very tangible. It could be tomorrow. It could be today for us, but it could be 60 years. So what do you do until that day? where your heart is finally home. And I think what you do is, if you are a daughter of the King, you are the hands and feet of Jesus. And you can bring freedom to each other. You have the ability to risk in relationship. A, with God. Honesty with God. God, this is the real me. And B, with each other. In safe settings. Friends or older girls in the church, older women. But you can do that now for each other. You can be friends that go deeper and deeper and love deeper and deeper. As a high school student, you can be Jesus to your friend. And it's not when they are being open and real, saying, oh, don't worry about sin. That sin that you just, whatever you're talking about, like it's not that big of a deal. We all do it. No. It is a big deal because it's robbing them of life. Your friend is being robbed, actively robbed of life. But it's saying, you sin, I sin, and it's not enough. It'll never satisfy. Let's go to the one who does. Honoring people. Do you understand that there are girls who literally are this chick? I don't know what it is. But their whole existence has felt like isolation and being alone and being ashamed. And do you understand? I know this is an example people use all the time, but it's so stinking easy. Sitting with someone at lunch or calling them up and being like, hey, come hang out with me. Do you understand that is freeing and honoring another person? You can be this. And that is truly, until we see Jesus' eyes, we have the church, we have the Word, and we have each other. So I just challenge you, if you want to live fully, risk in relationship. If you are wanting more than what you've been handed, risk in relationship with God and with others. And that's one thing I think that you're aching for, and you may not even know it. So I'm going to let us go. We're early, but that's all I've got. So let me pray for us, and tomorrow we'll be covering another aspect of freedom. All right, let me pray. Jesus, thank you so much for the fact that sometimes you do give us the one thing that we really want. Sometimes you don't, and that sucks. But God, you are not content to just give us that one thing. You will bring us to yourself. Because you know our hearts need you. They were made to need you, and they will not be satisfied until we have you. So I thank you for the fact that you do not stop pursuing us and loving us. And it's in your name I pray. Amen.